And thanks for tuning into the stream and joining us here at the Smash News Network, least busted name in news. We just streamed on the PC and the entire thing crashed. So take two. This time we'll use the mobile device instead of the Windows device. Because, Android is a nearly functional OS, just like Microsoft is a nearly functional OS. So maybe it was because of the updates. Who knows? At least the computer didn't just take over and decide to update against my will. So, here's to that. We'll be talking about Earth weather. We'll be talking about space weather. And since we've got some Earth weather coming in, the Northeast is seeing a bit of snow action. But it's going to be pretty minor, folks. Not a serious snowstorm, just really more like a shower. I mean, people freak out, and with not very good reason, because it's look, native Pennsylvanians are pretty good at dealing with the snow. So anyway, there are multiple space weather impacts on the way. We did have one minor impact just earlier this morning, Universal Time. So that's something. And we're seeing a dip in solar activity, from the perspective of the sun, but there are already multiple events headed our way. So we've got at least 3 more coronal mass ejections coming to a planet near you, Earth. So, yeah, we're going to talk about that. We'll give you all the stats, things like sunspot number. In the meantime, please press the share button. Tell your friends and foes about the channel. If you're new to the channel, press subscribe. And if you're viewing the videos in syndication, leave us a comment. Regardless, you've discovered the world's most comprehensive daily space weather content. So we're excited to have you. And let's get into some stats. Just give me a minute here while I bring up my trusty space weather console. So we do have a little bit of a subsiding of the extreme cold temperatures right now in the mid-Atlantic states, as a little bit of snow falls. Should be arriving any minute. Although as the temperature rises, maybe that'll burn off. So it's going to be very close to dew point. And if you're familiar with dew point, if you're not familiar with dew point, what it means is when relative humidity reaches 100%. So, a little tip here about how weather works. Relative humidity is the important factor. When relative humidity is a function of atmospheric pressure, real humidity, and temperature. And when you get to dew point, for example, if the temperature drops at a given pressure and humidity, you'll get precipitation. It's the cold air that causes the precipitation to happen, and it's the warm air that causes it to burn off. So, for example, you're going to get either fog, sleet, rain, or snow. That's it. That's precipitation. That is when water can no longer be a vapor and it condenses into droplets. So that's what relative humidity is. It's super important to understand. And of course, chemtrail believers, the Dane Wigington chemtrail cultists, they don't understand relative humidity, because if they did, they would understand what causes a contrail to be persistent or not persistent. So it's, if somebody says, oh, they're spraying from the planes, look, persistent contrails are proof. That's because they don't understand how aircraft and how weather works. Man-made clouds, they are pollution. They cause the days to be cooler and they cause the nights to be warmer because of the reflecting of infrared radiation, especially. And look, facts. It's insane the way environmentalism and pollution and so forth have been obscured by nonsense over the past decades. I mean, it's incredible how geologists should be consulted in a lot of this stuff, right? Like, ooh, Earth's magnetic field is waning. It's very dangerous. Except the problem is that it isn't dangerous, and it's not even a blip on the geologic time scale. It's not even a magnetic excursion. I mean, even Stefan Burns would agree on this one. Okay, the pole shift, it's a non-issue. It's a non-starter, and it's definitely not the harbinger of doomsday. So this is interesting. I'm just waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting for Windows to simply load up. So, I mean, on our last stream, the internet connection just shut off on this PC. So I had to reboot. I couldn't figure out even how to get it reconnected, right? So I reboot, end the stream, reboot, and it updates relatively quickly. And it's been a solid 5 minutes now. And it's just sitting there. Like, look at that. What in the ass is that? It's like Apple and Android. The Windows operating system has planned obsolescence built into it. I mean, Microsoft goes so far as to tell you this. You know, in October of this year, they stopped providing support for Windows 10. And many PCs are not upgradable to Windows 11. So what do? Install Linux. Open source, free, secure, private software that will run your machine just fine. Unlike this. What the hell is that? Yeah, welcome. Welcome to your own device that you can't fucking use. Thanks Microsoft. Well, that's okay. I got all fucking day to wait for your junkware to load. What a joke. Like, get the hell, you heard it here first at SNN. Get the hell off of Microsoft, Android, and Apple junkware. It's all crap. Proprietary crap. People are paid a lot of money to sell you garbage that it's planned obsolescence. Your computer is like a Bic lighter to these companies. And guess what? It's going to work fine for like a decade if you install lean enough software on it. So, I mean, it's just pathetic. It's pathetic. And frankly, it sickens me. It's truly disgusting. And what can you say? I can't stand the NASDAQ companies. With the exception of Amazon. You know, I can tolerate Amazon because Amazon does real stuff. Amazon has their own supply chain. They're an importer-exporter. Like, Amazon is a legit company. Microsoft, Apple, Tesla, Google. Never before have companies misled investors to the level that Google, Microsoft, Apple, I mean, big tech, Meta is another prime offender. I mean, if you are paying these companies to advertise, what the hell? I mean, is it really in your best interests to advertise on these social media platforms? Is it really in your best interest, folks? I mean, think about this. If you put an ad on YouTube, right, and somebody sees the ad, are they going to go, I'll never patronize that organization because they've advertised on Google? There are plenty of people that do it. And I don't blame them. You know, like, Google 100% lies to content creators, end users, regulators, advertisers, investors, and probably their own employees. If you work for Google, good luck. Like, if you work for Google, type in the comments why I'm incorrect on this. I don't think you will, because I'm correct on this. Anyway, here is the closest star. Finally, Microsloth decided to allow me to use my own device. Thank you so much, Microsloth. You're doing a fine job, Microsloth. Oh, look, it's almost even going to load something. Wow, amazing. And congratulations if you're able to use your own device. Isn't that impressive? Wow, you're able to use your own computer. Aren't you excited, folks? For some reason, the Goes 19 SUVI feed now shows like 12 hours. And look, the last couple hours look like they're missing. Look at that. It only goes to like 8:24. Great. And I can't click this. Awesome. Awesome, dudes. Oh, I love the internet. I love big tech. They are just fantastic companies. Fantastic companies dedicated to the betterment of mankind. Here's Microsloth. Here's a message from Microsloth. The application's not responding. Yeah. The junkware's not responding, folks. Doesn't matter how many commands you put in, it's just going to be crap. Let's talk cosmic rays for a minute here. Cosmic rays remain at a 20-year low, as shown here at the OLU neutron monitor. Of course, DOMC and DOMB Antarctica don't go back as far as OLU, but OLU goes back to 1965. And by the way, we have seen levels briefly dip to levels not seen since the 1990s in our most recent major solar storms. Now, let's talk cosmic ray point sources. We only know one, Cygnus X3. And here are the transients from it. By the way, this is the Neil Gorell Swift Bat X-ray Observatory. And these are the X-ray outputs of the high-mass X-ray binary that is Cygnus X3. So if you go to this site and you search and you type SIG, CYG space X-3, you will find that object, the massive X-ray binary in the constellation of Cygnus, and there are the X-ray emissions from it. As you can see here, in the past 4 years or so, it's actually become more variable in terms of its X-ray output. So that's interesting. Will that have some kind of a significant effect on the cosmic rays that are measured at Earth? It's possible. As you can see in the past, going back to 2005, the past 20 years, it's been in a quite tight range. And look, now it's well out of that range. It's kind of all over the place. So Cygnus X3, the only known point source for cosmic rays. And thanks for leaving a comment, Strato Tanker 8373. Next, we'll look at the Huxley forecast. the Huxt forecast from University Reading. See if there are any new additional CMEs on the way. Doesn't look like anything new since yesterday. Let's move on to things like basic stats. Sunspot number has dipped here, as I said earlier. Solar activity is lower than it was a week ago, where we almost reached 200 sunspots again. So according to Royal Observatory Belgium, sunspot number is at about 135. 135 sunspots. According to solon.info/solar, the 10.7 centimeter radial flux now down to about 184 solar flux units. Although they're still listing the NOAA sunspot number here as 227. I suspect that'll be updated lower coming. Oh no, I'm sorry. Sunspot number here showing as 134. So, all right. Some agreement there. That's good. Next, the GOES 19 coronagraph. Please tell me there's no missing data there. That would be unfortunate. All right. Looks like the spacecraft is doing just fine. Data is still about 20 minutes behind, but that's okay. All right, let me rock this back here to look at it a little bit more closely. So there's one out of the west. And that's pretty much it for the past 24 hours. Looks like no new CMEs headed our way. Let's bring up the latest Stereo A data set. I'm just going to reload that to make sure that we have the latest. Some of these sites are a little bit touchy. The Integrated Space Weather Analysis Center is a pretty good one. All right, there's our Stereo A coronagraph. So there's a far side event. And since then, we don't really see a lot on that data either. So I suspect no new coronal mass ejections headed our way. As far as NOAA's forecast goes, here's the Space Weather Enthusiast dashboard. And what do you got? What do you got, NOAA? Looks like NOAA's got nothing in the forecast here. So no geomagnetic storms. Kind of weird. Yeah, but we are expecting at least one or two more impacts that may cause aurora at mid-latitudes. So keep in mind, folks, NOAA does under forecast a little bit. NOAA is as concerned about false alarms as they are about things like the safety of astronauts. So when NASA forecasts coronal mass ejections, they're a little bit more likely to forecast an impact than NOAA is, because if you do excessive monitoring, it's very costly to monitor the satellites unnecessarily the way NOAA would. So, but NASA's trying to protect astronauts. So there is a bit of a difference there in the incentives associated with NOAA versus NASA's forecast. As far as conditions at Lagrange 1, which is where the active spacecraft, the ACE, is located. And right here you can see a little impact. This is one of the ones that we forecasted here in the past couple of days. There's an impact showing up right at just before 3:30 Universal Time this morning on 12:10. It was minor. The fields weren't super strong. It did not cause any geomagnetic storms. Since then, it has subsided. It was basically just like a brush past. Current conditions are BT-BZ of 7 nanotesla and BZ of -5. Solar wind density here about 4.5 protons per cubic centimeter. Solar wind velocity getting low here, 375 kilometers a second. No proton flux events, so no solar energetic particle events of note. There is some likelihood of those from the departing sunspot regions. Series of M-class flares have happened over the past 3 days. About 12 of them. And even an X-class flare event back on December 8th. So quite a bit of flaring here, although it is now subsided. The background flux is something like a C2.5 for the background X-ray output of the closest star. Next, let's take a look at our magnetic sectors. Earth remains in a South Pole-oriented magnetic sector, nowhere near any current sheets. Although Stereo A is seeing some turbidity, as a little tiny current sheet formed there and then dissipated. That's Stereo A under my arrow. Next, our coronal hole line of sight plot. Coronal holes are super important. They show us the solar polar field reversal process throughout the solar cycle. And as forecasted, we're seeing an ongoing, multiple year-long uptick in coronal holes. There you can see a bunch of South Pole-oriented ones depicted in red. Almost no North Pole magnetism depicted there. way down at the southern heliographic polar region. Just a little bit of green down here. Everything else, South Pole oriented. Next, magnetograms. And we'll look at Cerro Tololo. Most likely place for a large flare is definitely this large sunspot group in that southwestern limb. There's about a 4% higher chance of a large flare from the limb than the center of the solar disk, so take that into consideration. Next are red light imagery from Cerro Tololo. Let's zoom in at this sunspot group. Sunspot group, fun spot group. So you can see actually some undulation happening here. There is definitely some motion happening, some plasma filaments moving around in there, and that's a good thing, unless you don't want to see solar flares. But we do, since we cover space weather on the channel. Last but not least, our H-alpha imagery. We're going to look at both today and yesterday on this because it could show us some CMEs, but I don't think so because the coronagraphs don't show any. So it's looking pretty chill here. A lot of filaments on the Earth side of the disk, though, and some of these could use names. Actually, you know what, folks? Two of these filaments have just ejected or collapsed, but it looks like they ejected. I don't see any hider flare associated with these. So as you can see, these large filaments right here on either side of this active region are gone, especially this one. So there could be a little bit more ejecta headed our way, but if so, it will be a minor impact. Electron storm conditions here remain. Expect your GPS to be fairly bad at being accurate. We're going to skip the ionosphere today, but that's what it looks like at the moment. There's the anomalygram. Things are pretty chill. Let's talk Earth weather, since this stream did not show the awesome visuals that we showed on the other stream. Here's your water vapor map for that blue globe. And the water vapor map is super informative. We like to show that because if your radar is unclear, the water vapor map will rescue you from that lack of clarity. We'll zoom into the US view here. So there's the water vapor map. And here's the radar. This is a little bit of snow here rolling up through the northeast. We'll show the full map here. This is radar.weather.gov if you're wondering. And we're going to close out with this lovely satellite map, folks. This lovely, lovely satellite map. It's good. Windy.com, they got a great mobile app. It's free. It saves your settings. And it's gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. Like a sunrise over the Atlantic. Anyway, it's time to close this thing out as I've got things to do. Basic survival to achieve, and destruction to avoid. So anyway, thanks for tuning in, folks. I've been your host, Dan, a.k.a. Smash-O-Mash, signing off. And until next time, may that solar wind be at your back. And may that crap be absent from your YouTube feed. Let us know in the comments where you're located. We are located in Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania, which we've conveniently centered on the map. Come visit. The cycling is epic.